Lloyd, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Pleasure.
You're here at HobbitCon. I presume this isn't your first con. You've done a few of these before?
Yeah, I did quite a few of them back during Rings, and it was actually, I did RingCon about 10 years ago, and then that was my last convention about 10 years ago, but I did do one in Wales 3 odd weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like eased me back into it, and now this is the biggest. I don't think they get much bigger than this, really.
So the first film you in was Return of the King.
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, I had met Peter and New Line and some of the actors, or a lot of the actors, sort of through the premieres, and I'd heard on the internet that filming was coming to an end, and I kind of, I never expect anything, any special privileges or treatment or anything, just because I'm related to him. But I just thought, if I don't ask, before they finish filming, I may never get this chance again. So I emailed a guy called Mark Ordesky at New Line at the time, and just said, is there any chance that, possibly I could go over there, and it's cool if not. And he was like, yeah, of course you can. And so literally within a couple of weeks, I was over in New Zealand. And again, what I thought was, if I got there and had 5 minutes on set, that would be like super cool, and I'd be more than happy with that.
Yeah.
But when I turned up, the first thing that happened was, arrived, I got picked up at the airport, and the unit publicist had told me that Christopher Lee had heard that I was sort of flying in that evening, and he met my great-grandfather in Oxford, and so he wanted to have a cup of tea with me in the hotel. So that evening, after flying, my first time over to New Zealand, all that way, and then having tea with Christopher Lee in the Duxton Hotel, which was insanely brilliant, and he's a really lovely guy.
Yeah. And
And then it started from then, and then I went down to set first thing that next morning. I thought I'd get there super early at 7, before anyone else got there. I'd be like, yeah, first there, and I'll just watch everyone arrive. Got there, and they'd been there for hours, and there was like orcs walking around in full costume, and it was just that sort of endless. Every day was just like a mind-blowing thing to be seen.
You mentioned before there that you didn't want to receive special treatment, but did you feel you were made welcome, or
Completely,
how did the team get you involved, or were they in awe of you?
No. I don't think you get that really in sort of from New Zealanders. And I didn't perceive that there was any special treatment. It was just I was made to feel very welcome, and sort of I didn't have sort of restrictions on, you absolutely can't go there. There was no kind of, I don't know how I back then would have imagined walking onto a studio set in Hollywood. I would imagine there'd be sort of, lots of red tape and, sort of an official always with you. But it was just a lovely, friendly, warm, beautiful atmosphere to be around. And so it just felt very comfortable, and I felt, sort of welcomed and at ease very quickly.
How do you feel about, I mean, you're getting involved because of your grandfather's legacy. Is it overpowering? Do you just live with it? Is it something that's quite natural to you? How do you actually feel about being connected to this creator of this genre?
It's weird, really. I've always known it because he's been famous for as long as I've been alive, and I think if. Maybe if sort of, as a teenager, he'd suddenly become famous, possibly like, if J.K. Rowling, with her fame, if it was halfway through the life of one of her, sons or daughters, then that would be a big shock to the system. But, it has always been there. And, as a family, we've had very close ties to the Tolkien Society, and they every year would meet. And they would also come up to our farm in Wales and have summer moots there. And, so when I was a little kid of about 8, we'd be sword fighting with them in the fields and kind of letting fireworks off. So this has always been around, but in a much smaller scale. So the fandom has become huge with the films, but it's just a bigger version of what I've already been used to. So it's good. It's kind of I feel really humbled by it, and but this isn't what I do all the time. I live in Wales and I garden. And I drink cups of tea and I just kind of, hang out there. There's, this isn't, having like photos with, people and signing autographs and stuff. It's brilliant, but, you know, it's not my everyday life. This is a sort of, you know, once in a while occasion.
Yeah. So prior to Return of the King, did you do any other acting parts, or?
No, I was more into sort of PR and promotion, and I had sort of management of bands, and I used to put on sort of club nights in a local club near me.
Yeah.
So it's always been that sort of behind the scenes thing. I did actually, when I left school, I really wanted to get into special effects and makeup and blowing stuff up. And where I lived in Wales, there wasn't that much going on.
Well, there's a lot of sheep get blown up down there.
Yeah, yeah. But I did do, when I left school, there was a theatre workshop course that I went on, and it was making props and scenery, and then I used to work with the youth theatre, sort of, you know, doing scene changes and stuff at the local theatre. It's an amazing facility near me, Theatre Clwyd. And then I was going to do sort of a further second year with that, but I ended up going to America instead and sort of living in Chicago for a while.
Yeah. So what were you doing out there?
In Chicago?
Yeah.
It was my uncle lived over there, and I just thought, back then he was over at sort of Christmas time and got a map of America out, and it was fascinating. It was just this incredible thing. There was no internet and stuff back then, you know, it was, you had to go to a library to kind of research anything. But I've just given my age away probably, haven't I? Oh, bollock.
You can't say that either.
Yeah, so I just, I was just fascinated. He was showing me, he lived in Chicago, and he had friends in Memphis and Mississippi, Como, Mississippi, and Florida, and I was, oh, that was amazing. So I applied for a year visa to go over there, and I thought, if I get that, brilliant, I'll go to America and kind of work my way around America and work in Chicago. If I don't, then I'll just carry on at the theatre and kind of, you know, learn about lighting and, you know, that side of things. And the visa came through, and so I was off. So I went to America instead, and I think that was good for me because I was 17 then.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, first trip abroad, first time to America, and it just made me grow up very quickly.
Yeah.
And also gave me a bug for travelling and itchy feet.